I used to believe marriage rested on trust, that love alone could safeguard a man's dignity. I was wrong. My name is Colton Black, and this is the story of betrayal and the retaliation that turned me into someone I never imagined. 5 days ago, I was standing at the kitchen counter, holding my daughter Belle's iPad, scrolling through a group chat I was never supposed to see. It was called Family Only, and the participants were my wife Willow, her sister Lucy, and their mother Aurora. The messages reached back months, even years, and they were all about me. "He's just a pushover," Willow wrote. "He won't do anything," Lucy added with a laughing emoji. "Drain his savings while you can," Aurora advised coldly. "He'll never stand up for himself." They mocked me for turning down a promotion so I could spend more time with Belle. They joked about my trust, about how I never questioned Willow's home renovations. Renovations that turned out to be spa weekends, shopping sprees, or worse. What hurt the most wasn't the money. It was the contempt, the casual cruelty, the quiet, insidious way every sacrifice I made became their private joke. At that moment, I should have walked out, hired a lawyer, and washed my hands of them. Instead, something broke inside me. I decided I wouldn't just leave. I would make them understand what it feels like to shatter a man's faith, and then presume he'll stay meek. For as long as I could remember, I'd been the nice guy, the gentle father, the trusting husband. They never stopped to wonder what would happen if that quiet, obliging man discovered real rage. That night, while Willow slept, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, numb from betrayal. My heart hammered. My fists unclenched and clenched again. A dark heat sat behind my ribs. I thought of Belle, my only tether to decency, and made a vow. No matter what, I would protect her. I would not let her be used as a pawn in Willow's schemes or Aurora's manipulations. I would make every one of them regret every smug message in that family-only chat. 2 days later, Belle asked, "Daddy, why does Mommy's friend come over when you're not home?" I paused, phone in hand. "What friend is that, sweetheart?" I asked. "The tall man," she said. "He has a ring like yours and Mommy's. He comes when you're at work. He brings her coffee and they talk in her room. Sometimes they laugh. I heard Mommy call him Theo or something." Theo. The name hit me like a hand to the gut. Theo Ross. My longtime best friend. He'd introduced me to Willow at Lucy's birthday barbecue. He'd always been around, always laughing. I remembered how Willow used to watch him, that small change in her posture when he arrived. I'd never questioned it before, but now the pieces slotted together. Willow was cheating with my best friend. A cold, black tide rose in my stomach. After Belle ran off to watch cartoons, I hid a small motion-activated camera in the living room, its lens tucked behind a vase. Willow, confident in my obliviousness, never noticed. The next day at noon, while I was supposedly at work, my phone buzzed. Theo's silver truck pulled up on the footage. He let himself in, grinning. The camera showed them kissing in the foyer with the curtains wide open. He wore his wedding ring, a cruel reminder that he was married to Naomi. For 2 hours they stayed in my bedroom. Then he straightened his shirt and left. I didn't scream or break down. I sat and stared at the screen as something dark coiled inside me. My lawyer had called it financial abuse. Now it was adultery and the betrayal of a man I called friend. That night I overheard Willow on the phone with Aurora. "He's never going to confront me," she laughed. "We'll finalize everything next week once we get his bonus. I'll serve him the papers and take the house." "What's he going to do? Cry?" My chest tightened. Her arrogance was the match that lit my fury. No more silence. No more compliance. I would wait, let them push farther, then show them what I was capable of. My patience would be my last kindness. At my next meeting with Miss Phillips, my lawyer, I laid everything out. Screenshots, camera footage, text logs. She read each item, eyes widening. "You have a rock-solid case for divorce," she said. "There's potential for criminal charges. Colton, they're systematically robbing you." I didn't want them just to stop. My voice sounded lower, harsher than usual when I told her, "I want them to pay. Every one of them." She gave me a cautious look. "Stay within the law, Colton. I see your anger, and you have every right, but keep your head." I left her office calm in the way that precedes a storm. I wasn't going to break the law, but my confrontation with Theo wouldn't be something a lawyer could sanitize. I was done letting them equate my kindness with weakness. Aurora's big family dinner was coming up. Willow, Lucy, Aurora, and anyone they considered part of the clan would be there. It was their monthly ritual, gossip and posturing. I decided to go with a plan. I arranged for Belle to stay with a friend that night. I wanted her far from what might unfold. I debated how best to expose them all, waiting for the perfect opportunity. At the grocery store, Lucy's husband Grant ran into me. "You coming to the dinner, man?" he asked, polite but with an edge. I wondered how much he knew about Lucy's role in siphoning my money into hidden accounts. "Yes," I said with a small, controlled smile. "Wouldn't miss it." Grant studied me and gave a forced laugh. He had no idea what was coming. Neither did the rest of them. Saturday night I drove to Aurora's sprawling house, a place that screamed wealth but hid pretense. Tall hedges, a pristine driveway, white columns. Inside, rot and lies waited behind the polished facade. Lucy greeted me at the door, overly bright. "Oh, Colton, I'm so glad you could make it." Willow's inside helping Mom with the roast. "It's going to be wonderful." I smiled and stepped in. Aurora and Willow fluttered around the kitchen. Aurora held herself like a matriarch, shoulders back, chin up, as if reigning. Willow wore a summery dress, cheeks flushed, pretending she'd been busy. She hadn't worked an honest day since she learned she could manipulate me for money. "Colton," Willow purred in a silky tone. "So sweet of you to come right after your shift. Why don't you sit in the living room? Lucy will bring you something to drink." I accepted a glass of iced tea from Lucy, ignoring the sharp glances exchanged between mother and daughter as if they were conducting a secret performance. We gathered at the massive dining table, and Aurora called the room to order. "Let's go around and share highlights of our week," she said. "Willow, darling, why don't you start?" Willow tossed her hair. "Oh, I've been prepping the final details of my business venture," she announced. "I was going to keep it under wraps, but I can't resist. It's going to bring in substantial revenue." She placed a hand on my arm, counting on her wonderful husband to support her. Arrogance dripped from every syllable. They thought they had me, a docile spouse and a pliable wallet. They didn't know I had cameras, bank statements, and piles of evidence sitting in Miss Phillips's office. The dinner wasn't just about exposing them. I wanted them to see me, to understand their illusions about me were over. Before anyone could rise, the doorbell rang. I stood and said, "I'll get it." At the door was a courier I'd hired, holding manila envelopes. I nodded to him and he left. The family watched me, puzzled, as I returned carrying those envelopes, each labeled with someone's name. My heart hammered, blood roaring in my ears, but I kept my face serene. "Before dessert," I said, placing an envelope at each place setting, "I'd like to share something with everyone." Aurora narrowed her eyes. "What's this about?" she demanded. "Go on," I said. "Open them." One by one they tore them open. Gasps, curses, stunned silence rippled through the room. Willow's face drained of color. Lucy's mouth fell open. Aurora's lips thinned to a tight line. Even Grant looked shaken as he flipped through page after page. Logs, bank statements, screenshots, photos. It was all there. Bank records showing tens of thousands siphoned from my personal accounts allegedly for home renovations. Screen captures from the family-only chat mocking me and planning how to bleed me dry. Images of Theo arriving at my home on days I was at work. Time-stamped messages between Lucy and Willow about serving me divorce papers after my annual bonus. Aurora's emails orchestrating the scheme for maximum gain. "What the hell is this?" Lucy hissed, trembling. Willow's eyes brimmed with panic. "Colton, why would you do this? This is private. This is private," I said, my voice carrying across the hush. "Cheating with my best friend was private? Is that supposed to be your business too? You made it mine when you made a fool out of me." Aurora slammed her hand on the table. "You had no right," she spat. "I had every right," I shot back, leaning forward and fixing my glare on the woman who taught my wife how to con me. "You think you can rob me blind and degrade me behind my back? I have every right to gather evidence." And I did. Across the table Grant looked white, like he'd been punched. "Lucy, are these bank logs for our account?" he stammered. Lucy backed away, panicking. "Grant, honey, it's not what it looks like," she blurted. He held up a page. "You took out a second mortgage on our home." Lucy couldn't answer. She stared at me, face contorted. "You bastard," she whispered. "You ruined everything." "No, Lucy," I said quietly. You ruined everything. I just made sure you wouldn't get away with it. The doorbell rang again. My blood ran cold. Part of me expected who might be at the door. I'd half expected him to show. Willow jumped up, smoothing her dress. "I'll get it," she stammered. I followed, the family close behind. Willow flung the door open and there stood Theo Ross, uncertain but determined, wearing a black leather jacket, hair messy, his face torn between guilt and defiance. "Willow," he said softly. I wanted to talk. He saw me over her shoulder and his eyes widened. "Colton," he swallowed. "Look, man, I know how this looks." A fierce jolt of fury shot through me. That voice, my best friend's voice, once filled with shared memories, now tasted of betrayal. "Why are you here, Theo?" I asked, tone deceptively calm. He glanced at Willow and stammered. I came to," he trailed off, "to manipulate me further." My voice rose. "To walk into my home again while I'm away?" A flicker of panic crossed his face. "It's complicated," Willow whined. "You two were basically separated." "Don't you dare lie," I snarled. "I have footage of you in my bedroom when I was at work. My daughter asked why Mommy's friend keeps visiting." Theo went pale. "Colton, please, you have to understand." "Stop," I barked, stepping forward despite Willow's frantic cries. "There's nothing to understand but your betrayal." The old me, the pushover, might have tried to reason or walked away. But that quiet, compliant man had snapped the moment I saw my so-called best friend with his hands on my wife in my own home. My fists tightened. Theo realized too late what was coming. He raised his hands as if to placate me, but I lunged. I drove my shoulder into his gut and slammed him backward against the doorframe. The crack of wood echoed through. The house erupted. Lucy screamed. Aurora yelled to stop the madness, but I heard none of it. I grabbed Theo by his jacket and swung a wide punch that landed on his jaw. Pain flared across my knuckles, but it felt almost satisfying. Theo staggered. I moved in and landed another blow across his face. He overbalanced, stepped back off the threshold and onto the porch. "Colton, this is insane," he wheezed, but I hissed back, heart pounding. "This is justice. All those times you shook my hand and smiled while you stabbed me in the back. Did you think I'd just lie down and take it?" He reached for my arm. I twisted away and kicked the back of his knee. He went down cursing. I stood over him, chest heaving. Willow shrieked. "Stop, you're going to kill him," I snarled. "Funny, you never worried about me, only him." Adrenaline rattled through me. Theo coughed and spat blood onto the porch, terror in his eyes. He had never seen me like this. None of them had. I bent, grabbed a fistful of his hair. "You're done," I whispered, my voice shaking with rage. "You hear me? Done." Before I could strike again, strong arms wrapped around my chest. Grant and another man hauled me back inside. "Colton, that's enough," Grant panted. "It's not worth it." Theo pushed himself up, leaning on the porch rail, blood trickling from his mouth, eyes wide with fear. I let them drag me back into the living room, breathing ragged. Willow rushed to Theo's side, ignoring the chaos around us. Aurora demanded we call the police. "Call them," I spat. "Let's see how they like the evidence I've collected on your whole family." Aurora froze with her phone half raised. "You're threatening us," she said, voice tight. I laughed coldly. "No, I'm stating a fact. Call the police and you'll all face a tidal wave of charges. Fraud, theft, conspiracy, maybe more. Yeah, I'll probably be arrested for assault. But at least every dirty secret of yours will be on record, and I'll walk out of that station quicker than you can wiggle free." For a long moment, no one moved. Lucy slumped into a chair and buried her face in her hands. Aurora let her phone fall to her side. The only sound was Willow sobbing by Theo as he dabbed at his split lip. Grant rubbed his face, stunned. "This is insane," he said. "Lucy, did you really conspire with them to steal from Colton?" She nodded, then snapped, furious. "You didn't have to do this publicly. Couldn't you just leave quietly? Why should I?" I shot back, gesturing. Why walk away after what you all did? You didn't stop at stealing my money. You made a joke of me. You mocked me in your private chat. Did you ever think about what happens when the so-called pushover pushes back? Even Aurora, usually full of cutting remarks, was silent. The tension thickened as the fragile world they'd built collapsed. Willow helped Theo inside and eased him onto the sofa. He avoided meeting my eyes, nursing his cheek. She turned to me, mascara streaked down her face. "Colton, I'm sorry," she whispered, voice trembling. "It just happened. Theo was there and you've always been distant. Don't you dare blame this on me," I hissed. "When you needed money, I gave it. When you needed time, I gave that too. I gave you everything, and you and your family mocked me for it. You planned this." A flash of anger lit her face. "Fine. Yes, we mocked you. You were too stupid to see it. But you weren't supposed to become this monster. A monster you made," I snapped, laughing hollowly. "You think I wanted any of this? You pushed me to it." She snarled back that I'd never win custody of Belle, that no judge would trust a father who hit people. I let that hang in the air, then reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. On the screen were texts between her and Aurora plotting to provoke me into a violent outburst so they could claim abuse in court. I had timestamps, recordings of their financial schemes, footage of Willow with Theo. "You're going to lose everything," I said softly. "And if you try to use Belle as a bargaining chip, I will bury you in legal action." My voice dropped to a tremor. For the first time, fear spread across Willow's face, deeper than the immediate chaos. She realized the protective father she had underestimated was now her worst nightmare when it came to custody. No one touched Aurora's roast. We all sat or stood in that vast living room while accusations swirled. Theo stared at the floor, wincing as blood darkened his jacket. Lucy sobbed. Aurora's carefully maintained facade crumbled. Finally, Aurora cleared her throat, trying to steady herself. "Let's all calm down," she said, voice shaking. "Colton, perhaps we can discuss terms. We're family after all." "Not anymore," I replied firm. "I won't settle this privately. You left me no choice." Grant looked at Lucy in disbelief. "I can't believe you did this. Our finances, our life, for this scam?" "Lucy, desperate," said Mom told her it was guaranteed. "You'd never know," she stammered, then dissolved into tears. But I felt no pity. Her tears were for being caught, not for any remorse. Aurora rubbed her temples and pleaded for a way out. "We can repay you. We can apologize." "What would you repay me with?" I asked. "The money you spent is gone." She tried to negotiate. I cut her off. "I've already filed for divorce. Court documents are ready. I'll be served soon. My priority is Belle's best interest. Fraud is separate. My attorney will file criminal charges. Your family-only chat will make a delightful exhibit for the prosecution, especially the parts about forging my signature and stealing funds." Aurora's face flushed. "You would send your child's mother to prison? You're a monster." "She's the one who dragged herself there," I said coldly. "Maybe a plea bargain's possible. Talk to your lawyers." Lucy clutched her stomach, looking ill. "What about me?" Grant asked. "If you want to come with me, I'll introduce you to my lawyer. You can see the evidence yourself." He nodded, stunned and devastated. In that moment I almost felt sorry for him. He'd married into that den of vipers. Theo managed to stand, leaning on Willow, eyes pleading. "Colton," he began, but there was nothing left to say. I turned my back on him. The assault had left a grim satisfaction. I had become someone I never imagined, someone who met betrayal with violence. I pointed at Aurora. "Don't bother calling me. Don't try to manipulate Belle behind my back. You so much as ring a speaker in the wrong tone, and I'll have the police on your doorstep." Fear flickered in her gaze. She swallowed and agreed. I faced Willow. Her tears had dried into a hollow stare. Pack your things, I said quietly. Stay with your mother or stay with him, but don't set foot in this house except for scheduled visitation or with an officer to collect your things. Consider your comfortable life over. She opened her mouth and closed it. She knew she'd lost. Within days, Miss Phillips filed a mountain of paperwork, divorce filings, restraining orders, custody motions, and fraud and theft suits. Grant helped uncover more hidden funds and other schemes. The net closed quickly. Theo called once. I deleted his voicemail without listening. Some betrayals aren't forgivable. The fallout spread fast. Aurora was investigated for orchestrating financial schemes, including forging signatures to open lines of credit. Lucy's meltdown escalated when Grant froze their accounts and launched his own legal action. Their lavish lifestyle collapsed. Theo's wife Naomi, who had suspicions, learned the full truth. She filed for divorce, took the kids, and publicly cut ties, spreading the news among mutual friends. In a matter of weeks, my quiet suburban life exploded into depositions, property transfers, and, ironically, settlement offers. Willow, Lucy, and Aurora tried to buy their way out. Miss Phillips refused them, pushing for maximum damages. You'll end up with more than you imagined, she told me. But money wasn't my main aim. Belle was. I insisted on primary custody, citing Willow's manipulation and fraud. The family court judge, presented with the evidence, granted me sole custody pending review. Willow was given supervised visitation because the court felt she might emotionally manipulate Belle or even attempt abduction. It was extreme, but her plan to use our daughter as leverage had tipped the balance. Weeks turned into months. I found a new home in a decent neighborhood. Not flashy, but honest. I painted Belle's room in her favorite color and signed her up for after-school art classes. I tried to give her as normal a childhood as possible. Willow attempted to recast herself as the victim in court, claiming my outburst proved I was unfit. Miss Phillips methodically dismantled that claim with proof of Willow's affair, the financial records, and months of messages showing she'd plotted to provoke me into violence to use it against me. The court showed little sympathy. Criminal charges for theft and fraud remained pending, and I prepared to testify if needed. One night after a custody hearing, Willow cornered me in a courthouse hallway. Her mascara ran, hair unkempt, sleep deprived. "Colton," she whispered, "I'm sorry. I know it might be too late, but I don't want to lose Belle. I never meant. I'm not that gullible man anymore," I cut in coldly. The old me might have consoled her, but I only thought of how she'd forced Belle to lie, how she'd planned to bleed our accounts, how she'd mocked me. "You set this in motion," I said, then walked away. A week later, Theo found me outside a diner. He still bore a pale scar on his cheek where I'd struck him. He looked thinner, hollow. "Colton," he said, voice trembling. "I'm sorry. I lost everything. Naomi, the kids, my job. I was drunk or stupid or both. Willow needed someone." I slammed the car door, stepped closer until we were face to face. "You took advantage," I snarled. "You did it for months." He could only whisper that he couldn't take it back. "We were friends," he pleaded. I laughed harshly. "I gave you my trust. You spit on it. You want pity now? You have none left from me." He begged me finally. "If you see Naomi, tell her I'm sorry." I shrugged him off. That was for him to earn. He left a broken shell of the arrogant friend I once knew. Maybe somewhere under my hatred a flicker of sadness remained. But he destroyed that bond, so I let him disappear without another word. Months later, the divorce was finalized. I was awarded the majority of the marital assets, including proceeds from the sale of our old house. Some funds reclaimed through legal action. Willow, Lucy, and Aurora faced criminal charges. Plea bargains were negotiated. Belle, meanwhile, thrived in her new school, with new activities and a father who was present. I didn't imagine I'd become the man I had that night on the porch. But when someone you love reduces your worth to numbers in a chat and treats you like a joke, you either let it break you or you do whatever it takes to protect the person who matters most. For me, that meant walking through fire and coming out on the other side with Belle safe and our future rebuilt.